Okay, so we're going to continue with the basic endgames. We're going to look at the back rank mates. Back rank mates is where you leave your either the 8th rank or the 1st rank without protection. So in this case, if it's white to play, white can just bring the queen on h8 and it's a checkmate because there's nothing protecting the king on the back rank. You can put the queen on f8, but the other rook will just come and capture on f8, or you capture using the queen. Still a checkmate. So back rank mates, normally to avoid those ones, you need to what we call opening a window for your king. Whilst you are playing in the opening, you can play h6, so that in case someone brings the queen on h8 to make a check, you have where an escape route, which is a7. But in this case, because there's no escape route for white, for black king, you just bring the queen on h8 and it's a checkmate. Then we are going to look at another checkmate, basic checkmate, which is called a smothered mate. This one, no matter how many pieces your opponent has, you may find yourself in a situation where you're just remaining with, white is just remaining with one move checkmate. But because you found a loophole where you can win instead of losing a game, there's a position where there's a queen on f5 and then there's a knight on c2. So you make a discovered check by removing a knight, which is protecting, which is covering up a check for the king. So it's going to be a discovered double check. It's check with the knight and check with the queen. So if the king moves on c1, you just play the queen on c2, it's a checkmate. So white wouldn't want to do that. So if white decides to go on a1, you're still remaining with just 2 pieces on the board. So you sacrifice a queen and go for a check on b1. The king cannot capture the queen because the queen is protected by the knight. So the only piece that can capture the queen, is the rook. So you capture using a rook, and then that square, which is c2, is left for a knight to just go there and deliver a checkmate. There's no escape route for the king, and then there's no piece that is able to capture the knight. So that move is called a smothered mate. I'll play it again. So there's a double check from delivered by the knight and the queen, which is check. The king moves to a1, the rook goes on b1, the queen captures, the rook captures, and then the knight comes on c2, which is a checkmate. Then we have checkmates, which are normally just delivered by pawns. You may find a situation where you have pawns, 3 pawns trying to queen, like on the G, F, G, and H file. So it's white to play. White can just push 1 pawn forward, which is an F7 pawn, check. The king goes to H8. You can either promote, and it's a checkmate because the 2 pawns are protecting the H7 and the G7 square, or you can push the other pawn which comes on G7, which delivers a check. You can move the king on H7, promote a queen, it's check. The king captures the pawn. You move your king on F6 for support towards your queen. The king moves on H5. Then a checkmate is delivered on G5 with the queen. So initially you had 3 pawns versus a king. So the pawns were the ones that delivered a check. Then you promoted bring reinforcement with the queen, with the king, then a checkmate.